This is part one of setting up OpenSquiggly on Google Cloud. As per usual, this video is for guideline purposes, and you should consult your network operations or security team for additional security advice and recommendations. All of these cloud providers have a ton of options for configuring all manner of things. It wouldn't be possible for us to document everything. So this is just a general overview of the basic process here. All right, so you're going to log into your Google Cloud portal and go to Compute Engine. This is where you're going to create a VM. All right, I don't have any VMs yet. If I did, they would show up in this list, but I can create an instance. So that's going to create a new instance of a VM. All right, so I'm going to click on that. I'm going to give the instance a name. I'll just use the default instance 1. I'm going to pick a region. I'll use the default US West 4. Okay, and now I want to pick the size. What I like to do is pick a size. I like to pick at least 8 gigabytes of memory when I'm even for a test process like this, because Elasticsearch is rather memory intensive, and so when you start putting load on it, you want to make sure that you have memory. And we'll provide some sizing recommendations on our website for both the size of your VM as well as the sizing of your data disk that you're going to attach. It's not an exact science, but we'll provide some guidelines on that. All right. And then what I want to do is I want to change this image. The default is Debian GNU Linux 11, which would probably work, but we haven't tested against that. We always recommend using what we've tested against internally, which is going to be Ubuntu, and this is going to be the x86-64 Ubuntu 20.04 long-term support. The boot disk type balanced persistent disk should be fine, and it only needs to be 10 gig because we're not going to store anything else on this disk anyways. All of our data is going to be on a separate volume. All right, so we'll select that. And one other thing you do want to do is under firewall, select allow HTTP traffic and allow HTTPS traffic. This is one of these options. I'm saying that, the security team may want to do something different and have different options there. But anyways, we're just going to allow all inbound traffic from the internet through on HTTP and HTTPS for now. And that should be everything I need to select. And I'm going to go ahead and create that. All right, so we're going to let that spin up. All right, so that looks fine. And now we're going to create that data disk that I mentioned. And the data disk is where OpenSquiggly is going to store all of its, the MongoDB database, all of the logs for all the services, the Elasticsearch index, and all the cloned repositories. All right, so we're going to go under disks, and we're going to say create disk. All right, and I'll call this data disk 1. All right, and I'm going to put this in the same zone as the VM itself is in. And it's going to be a blank disk. And I want to choose SSD persistent disk. I want this to be as high performance as possible. You do want to use the highest performance disk that you can because of the load that ingesting repositories and then cloning them puts load on the Elasticsearch, which uses that disk. And so you do want to choose a high performance option. And then under sizing, again, we'll provide some sizing recommendations. This is just going to be totally dependent on how many repositories that you think you're going to clone. So if you're just going to clone a few, then a few tens of gigabytes will probably be sufficient. If you're going to be cloning thousands upon thousands of repositories, then you want to think about that size. All right, I don't think we need, at least for my purposes, enable snapshot schedule. I'm going to turn that off. And everything else looks good. I'm going to go ahead and create this. We'll let that spin up. All right, that's done spinning up. And now what we got to do is we got to attach that data disk to the instance. We're going to go back into our instance. All right. And let's see. I'll go back into our instance here. And we're going to edit the instance. And then we're going to scroll down, and under additional disks, we're going to attach an existing disk. This is what we want. And we're going to pick that data disk that we created. Why isn't it there? All right, I think I messed up the first time. I'm going to create a second data disk. And I think the zone has to be the same zone as your VM. US West B I picked this time. All right, I wasn't paying enough attention to that the first time. I'm going to disable snapshots. Oh, I see. When I did that, it changed the zone. All right, let's see if we get a different result this time. Create data disk 2. We'll let that spin up. All right, that's done. We'll go back into our VM instance. Okay. See that? Notice how that's in US West 4B zone. I think that's got to match your disk, especially if you set up with a single zone, which is what I did. Let's see here, zone is US West B4. I told you there's lots of different options on these things, these cloud providers. So all right, so we're going to edit the instance, and we're going to come down, and let's see, hopefully it works this time. Attach the existing disk, and we do want it read-write, and we want to delete the disk when I delete the instance. And you might want to do that, but I'm doing this for test and demo purposes, so I do this a lot, and I like to delete the disk when I delete it. But you'll probably want to do keep the disk. All right, and there we go, data disk 2. All right, good. And now I can save that. All right, and now that I've saved that, I can save the overall configuration change that I've made. Save. All right. Let that spin up. All right, I think that's done now. And we should be good to go. So in the next video, what we're going to do is we're going to connect to the VM with the console with SSH, which Google lets you do right through the browser interface. Notice up here in SSH, you can say open in browser window. That's pretty nice. So we're going to do that. We're not going to use a terminal. We're not going to use a Linux terminal. And that way we don't have to worry about our SSH keys and all that. So in the next video, I'm going to be already connected, and that's how I'll have done it, is by going here and say open the SSH in the browser connection. And we should be good to go then. And so then we're going to SSH in, and we're going to download the OpenSquiggly zip file and run through the setup script. Okay, thank you for watching.